Welcome to Metroid Theories, where I talk about the Metroid series. One of the most viewed segments in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond's trailer is the scene where Sylux appears. With him are 4 space pirates and what appears to be 2 Mochtroids. Or that was the consensus at the time before the Nintendo Treehouse, which showcased Beyond Switch 2 edition. It would be revealed that these Mochtroids are referred to as Metroids. If these are Metroids, then why do they look like Mochtroids? While these Metroids share a similar feature with Mochtroids, namely the single nucleus, they differ in that they have 8 teeth, not 4, and they fuse with organisms. In this video, I will present a theory I've developed about the origin of Mochtroids, but in order to do this, I'll need to go further back in the Metroid timeline before the events of Metroid Samus Returns. Throughout the Metroid Prime subseries, Samus has dealt with various kinds of Metroids in various locations, such as Talon 4, Aether and Dark Aether, Norian, Elysia, GFS Valhalla, the Pirate Homeworld, Phase, and Tulvania. In each location, she has eliminated them. Prior to Beyond, the last location Metroids are found on is Tulvania. Under the command of General Alex Miles in Metroid Prime Federation Force, the Marine would acquire a Metroid egg from this planet. This would lead to the event of Sylux sneaking into the Federated Force Research Station to steal the Metroid, which hatched before him. This is important. If you think about the events in the sub-series, it suggests that the Zebesians on planet Zebes didn't have a Metroid to study, multiply, or clone. There are only 2 times the Zebesians had Metroids. The first time was prior to Metroid Zero mission, which led up to this point in the series. The second time was in Super Metroid, where Ridley stole the baby Metroid from the series station. This means that no one has a Metroid except Sylux. When Beyond's first trailer revealed Sylux accompanied by 2 Metroids, the question I asked myself was, where is the stolen Metroid? The Zebesians in Zero Mission used beta rays to duplicate Metroids. This detail is also mentioned in Metroid Prime Trilogy's manual on page 10. This leads me to believe that the space pirates throughout the subseries had used this method as well, so why would they clone Sylux's Metroid? There are 2 possible explanations that I can think of. The first explanation is that Sylux's Metroid was killed. I don't know how this would occur, but one scenario I have in mind is that his escape with the stolen Metroid from the research station didn't go as planned. Perhaps the Galactic Federation Marines were prepared, so after the Metroid hatched, security was alerted. During his escape, the Metroid was eliminated. Nevertheless, Sylux took it with him. If this Metroid is dead, then exposing it to beta rays wouldn't matter. If it could be duplicated this way, it would probably produce another dead Metroid. However, a dead Metroid can still provide genetic material for cloning. My second explanation is that Sylux or someone had plans to create Metroids capable of fusing with other organisms. Although duplicating a living Metroid, and then genetically engineering it would be possible, it would probably be less controlled, due to its biological complexity, its immune system, etc. If instead, the Metroid's genetic material was genetically engineered, in vitro editing for cloning would offer a more predictable and uniform outcome. This would mean Sylux's Metroid is alive, but unlocated. So, why do these fusion Metroids and Beyond look like Mochtroids? Because they're the improved versions of Mochtroids. The original Metroid cloning attempts were abandoned in what I interpret as a flooded, underground research facility located in Meridia. These Mochtroids would be in this facility long before the events of Super. Now, after the events of Beyond, I suspect that the narrative will finally lead into the events of Samus Returns. This would mean that by the end of Beyond, the space pirates don't have any Metroids, and if Sylux's Metroid was alive, it's now dead because of Samus. The only remaining Metroids are located on planet SR-388, where Samus eliminates all but one. After defeating the Queen Metroid, Samus encounters a Metroid egg, from which hatches the baby, who imprints on Samus, believing her to be its mother. When Samus and the baby make it to the starship, Proteus Ridley appears. Why is Proteus Ridley on SR-388? No explanation is ever provided, but I think it's because he's in search of another Metroid. Remember, the space pirates don't have Metroids because Samus wiped them all out. The problem is, he hasn't found any. Perhaps he's aware that all but one has been wiped out. I think my theory not only explains the origin of Mochtroids, but also weaves a narrative tying Sylux and his Metroid into the broader Metroid mythos. Of course, my theory suffers from a flaw that I'm aware of. Super's Japanese manual, which is drastically different from the English localization, says this about Mochtroids: it was cloned from a Metroid stolen by space pirates, but it only has incomplete abilities. This is stating that Mochtroids were cloned from a Metroid stolen by space pirates, not Sylux. One might argue that perhaps space pirates is being used to refer to Sylux, but I don't find this convincing. In Super's manual, there are two types of space pirates listed. These are Zebesians and Key Hunters. Sylux as a character wouldn't have been conceived at the time, making this interpretation very unlikely. Furthermore, Super's Japanese manual states the following. Emerging from the darkness was a group of space pirates that Samus was supposed to have annihilated. The pirates, having stolen the Metroid, fled to the rebuilt fortress planet Zebes. This is referring to the event that took place on Ceres. While Ridley isn't mentioned here, it's known that he appears in the game. If space pirates would refer to anyone, it would certainly refer to Ridley and his forces. Despite this flaw, I think my theory presents an interesting direction within the Metroid mythos,